Chapter 23. Sa's Expulsion. Debut of the Dictated Night. Calamity befalls those who taunt its becoming, believing it unlikely. The burden of stewardship is then delegated to those who warned of her validity. Where did this quote originate? How did it arise in my mind? Did I dream it? I have not properly slept since Saba's training. Furthermore, the Koth is not as responsive to me as it once was. I believe her to be greatly disturbed. Saba's transformation and his erratic style of assault has exacted a great toll from her. Between Jai, Gisbin, and I draining her and Saba ripping through her physical form, she may have sustained a lasting damage. I must be cautious not to stress her any further. Now, even resting upon a bedding fabricated by the piles of leaves from the corollary of her abuse seems disingenuous. With a fitful ardor, I twist and contort my body to inspect Saba's condition. He remains soundly asleep, his body yet ravaged by the wounds of his battle. Thanks to Jai's attentive care, however, he is on a path to recovery, aided by the herbal pastes and bandages she has skillfully applied. Alas, the privilege for me to spend the next couple of days at rest is not one I may procure for myself. Rather, I must seek out Jai and confer with her about the methods by which I may bolster my odds against the looming ghost of Tiamatu. After gently rubbing my eyes and a great sigh, I propel myself to my feet and inhale my first meditative breath of the day. It is one teeming with a sense of purpose, and laced with a new strain of determination. I make my path to the surface to inspect for any variations or irregularities since Tiamatu's first signal. Scavengers have picked the field of dead avian clean. A thick, blanketing cloud now lingers. The air is much heavier, and Sa's rays are no longer fully penetrating into our dimming world. My estimate would be that this is not localized, but rather widespread across Oma, being that the first signal involves Sa's gradual expulsion. In the unseen distance, I can hear the various creatures of the night active midday. With many nocturnal species being maleficent in nature, they will surely take advantage of this opportunity in order to expand their domain. Drapids, ballflies, garts, carragans, to list some without giving it more thought than it calls for. Tiamatu's return is progressively inducing a state of unnatural chaos in the world. His near omnipotence is daunting, but if history tells truth, we know that he can be defeated.
Draco.
A rattling and foreboding timbre sounds and proliferates within the maze of my mind. This voice, so unpleasant, so sickening, and truly terrifying. It came as swiftly as it went, but in its wake it left my head aching. Could that have been Tiamatu? And what? Or who is Dracoma? Was this addressed to me in particular? Or has everyone heard it?
N.
I found myself so entangled within this nest of queries that I could not sense Jai approach me in the slightest. Again I nearly leap from the surprise. She has yet to greet me in a general and less alarming way. Why she insists upon her creeping is beyond me. Truly she is befitting of her title as the colorless assassin. I apologize, Jai. I do not mean to appear so taken away, but I believe that Tiamatu has made an attempt in contacting me. It was just moments ago. I do not hesitate to inform her. Why ought I? She already knows everything else. Jai's unspoken language is acute and her expression dire. She believes in me.
It would not escape the realm of possibility to think that Tiamatu's permeating essence privileges him some form of telekinetic freedom. Though, if Tiamatu's vigor is not shy of the depth that the legends describe it being, then I would not doubt that he could communicate with some mortals even prior to the first signal.
She's not gesturing a mere guess. She's insinuating something with building confidence. Right. Was not Parias betrayed by his dearest friend due to Tiamatu's influence? Of course. How could I forget? The Chronicles of Parias had in it a bulk of verses on this matter. Just before the battle for Oma and Tiamatu's physical appearance, Parias was destined to murder his dearest friend, who was promised immortality in return for aiding Tiamatu in exacting his unholy plot. It is all starting to come back to me. The books, the lectures, all of it. Some of my ancestors' memories must have blurred and mixed in with my own.
Yes. Parias was deceived, and so too was his friend. You see, before we had the seal that we currently have imposed on Tiamatu, he was bound by an older prison. One that befell him as a consequence to his position as the god of suffering.
Jai is filling in for me the emptied pockets from all those years ago. Amazing how, with her advanced age, she remembers and retains more of the Academy's historical teachings than I do. However, the institutions would never describe them as such. Historical, that is. Why is it that the Omani disregard the gods of suffering, joy, and balance, but then look directly to nature and the mother tree for their enlightenment, salvation, and in matters pertaining to the soul? Are these cosmic deities not above our material plane? I ask her.
Is engaging in philosophical or theological debate amongst your greater obligations in times such as these? I wonder.
There she goes again, answering a question with another question, and rather blithely and comically. I believe that it is precisely in times like these that such festering questions ought to rise, Jai, and they ought be met with a level of scrutiny that demands critical contemplation. I stand stern. Jai takes a seat upon one of the thicker roots nearby and motions for me to sit before her.
Our kind, as well as all life, owes gratitude to existence, and it is paid by existence. Simply carrying out the nature of our being amounts to praise for the three gods who create and administer all that is, was, and will be. But life itself is a separate entity to existence. Do not confuse the two as one. You can exist and be alive, yes, yet you can also exist and not be alive. Look to the stars, the moons, fire and water, wind and rock. Death does not erase your soul. We display our faith to the Mother well, for it is her who gives us life and recycles this life, so that we may live and not just exist. This young wolf is the reason we have not come to idolize the gods, nor teach their being as truth. For there is no serving purpose in doing thus. Now, understand that I know not if this is for better or for worse. I may, indeed, be proven consequentially wrong. Alas, the answer has not found me, and thus I do with what little I have. Perhaps you'll see to it that a finer and sturdier truth is found. Ought this be the matter, do well to enlighten a stubborn and unbending elder such as myself. I mustn't feign with this old and haughty chest of mine that the youth has yet not a thing or two to teach me.
She finds humor in her own jest. This is a great deal to take in. I was right to be both diligent to and dubious of the Academy's teachings. I paid attention. There is just much that I have forgotten. If I think back, everything which was taught seemed plausible at the surface level, but I always maintained a rigid standard of doubt as I believed that much of the crucial information in our studies was being omitted, albeit on grounds unbeknownst to me. Jai, humble as she is assisting me in affixing one of these unclasped links. Whosoever managed the unclasping is beyond my purview. It surely must anger the gods, Tiamatu especially, that we do not worship them. However, with all of this being said, my heart is troubled yet. I cannot simply give all praises to that which is tangible. In the pit of my soul, Parias, too, is discontent with such things. I am certain of it. I can feel his unease. The legends are both comparable and compatible with our current era. They are telling of something, yet I know not what that something is. History is indeed sowing a relative poem, and I've somehow found myself in the center of it, kneeling to reap its meaning and substance.
Are you afraid?
She asks. Not for myself. Ought I fail, we all cease to exist. Both life and reality will be stripped from us, if I am not strong enough. My fists and jaw clench without my explicit permission.
You are pure, not weak. The soul of Parias is that which has faced greed, corruption, and war. For a compassionate being such as yourself and a seasoned warrior of old to share a vessel, each must be willing to give way to the other. At times, the prior to the latter, and in other instances, the latter to the prior.
Her clarification resonates deeply. Parias has shown himself only in the most extreme of occasions. I could not have decapitated Kishnu and Kara without his intervention. Of this much I am confident. There shall surely be more predicaments of that same nature. I know this to be true.
And a time may surface when Saba betrays you.
Her words cut profoundly and suddenly. No. Denai has already crossed me. That part of history has been duplicated. That ink has already touched parchment. I respond, or rather react apprehensively.
I peered through your mind, remember this. Relative to my perspective, Denai was never a true friend to begin with.
She says this coldly and without remorse. What is she going on about? Denai may have been corrupted by his greed, but we grew up together. He was not always so. On the contrary, Saba and I met in battle. Thus, would it not hold true that Saba is the one who had not been her friend since the dawn of our coming together? She proceeds to explain herself, for in my shock, I do not give her a response.
I know what you are thinking. Consider that Tiamatu is not bound by his past. He is not doomed to forever repeat his actions. The doings of a god are not so easily predicted, nor are they contained. Tiamatu has no requirements to live reproducible events. He may have influenced both Denai and Saba, and from my impartial viewpoint, it appears that Denai may have been in contact with Tiamatu since your childhood. He was a precursor to your eventual alliance with Saba.
Say it is not so. My entire life has been puppeteered, and Tiamatu has been the fate-twisting conniver who tugged so effortlessly at those strings. Damn it all. How is it that I could be so complacent? Were I to believe this, it would mean that Denai was not my principal betrayer. Rather, he would be the one who would willingly give me to him. I have always suspected that Saba, in one form or the other, had ulterior motives. But this conspiracy, it is unfounded. What evidence can you lay forth, if any, to support such a claim? I hope that Jai does not feel as though I cannot trust her wisdom. But this changes everything. If Saba is to eventually turn against me, then it is best I do away with him now. The problem is, however, there are no certainties here.
Was it not Denai who sold you out to Saba? The timing was impeccable, and Saba's capturing of you was perfectly executed. Denai conveniently slips into a quicksand that suddenly appears beneath him. You rush to his aid, then get knocked unconscious from behind.
Her eyebrow lifts. Wait, is that how it happened? I am bemused. Did I not faint for whatsoever reason? Had the effects of the silver water, perhaps, lagged in their disassociation, contributed to my grogginess? This is what I have, until now, attributed to my collapse. I do not recall receiving a blow.
Granted, you were knocked unconscious. You ought to remember up until then.
No, I remember that. Was I knocked out, or did I swoon? I am not one to dizzy so easily. But perhaps after having ingested the Silver Creek waters and seeing Denai suddenly get swallowed into Oma...
Stop it.
Frustrated with my dithering, Jai signals for me to quiet.
Your infiltrate command operates just as an outsider looking in, as you know. It makes sense now as to why you did not fill the gaps. I was not distanced enough as to witness whosoever did so, but you were most definitely struck at the nape.
Her words are resolute. There is no quivering or hesitancy in what she says. She speaks truthfully. A chill shoots up and through the rivets of my spine. My arms flop loose. My shoulders drop and hang. My chin tucks downward and my breathing is shallow. When we arrived in the Kath, Saba mentioned my carotid. Was he pretending that it was his first time striking it? The layers of deceit are many, but these accusations are not enough. I need to pull from him his admission. I cannot simply accept all of this as truth without it. Is there no other way? I plead with Jai as though any decision I make from henceforth is requisite of her approval. There is no hope in my voice. It is because I already know that which I do not wish to believe.
Whether I am right or not is still to be determined, my ambiguous pupil. But until it is reconciled in full faith, you must ossify in your resolve and hold steady on whether you can take his life or not. And you must do thus now. You cannot be unprepared to act if or when that time comes. Saba need know nothing of this exchange.
Jai descends back into the cough, leaving me to my own judgment and resolution.